Hello everybody and welcome to my new video. I'm going to be talking about making a pretty comprehensive guide into what it looks like to be a brand new player for Lord of the Rings Online. I'm just going to be brutally honest, for a lot of the tutorials and things that I have watched, there are a lot of things that I feel are not talked about enough when you are first starting out in playing Lord of the Rings Online. I think there are a lot of good things in those tutorials, and I don't want to discredit them and say that they're necessarily bad, but also I don't want to. There are just a lot of things that I genuinely feel like are completely missed out on. And I really want to just give an idea of telling people kind of what to be expecting, where to even start, and how to go about the beginning of the game. So this is going to be a very, very long tutorial. We are going to be breaking every single thing down, from things to be looking at if you are a solo player, things to be looking at if you are jumping into this with friends for the first time, and just kind of how to, like, where to even start. So obviously, the first thing that you are going to be starting with when you are playing Lord of the Rings Online is going to be your character creation. I'm not going over servers because I really just don't think servers are really that big of a deal. Obviously, if you are playing with your friends, please make sure you guys are on the same server. If you're not on the same server, then anything else is just not gonna matter, because you gotta be on the same server. Okay? If you're not on the same server, then you will be completely out of luck. We can now go ahead and talk about all the different things to be expecting here once you get to this screen of creating a character. Obviously, there are a ton of different things to be looking at when you are creating your characters. There are a ton of races, there are a ton of classes, and you can look at this and think, oh my gosh, this is super overwhelming. I don't know where to start. I don't know what race I want to play. I don't know what class I want to play. Biggest thing that I will tell you is, think about, when you are thinking about the character that you want to create and what kind of person you want running around Middle-earth, think about if you were, this is always the best question I've always asked. If you were running around in Middle-earth, who would you want to be? And that is really where you want to go. Now, if you are a min-maxer, okay, and you're somebody who maybe you've been playing MMOs for a while, and you are looking at wanting to create the best character possible for a specific role, this is where you're going to want to look at individual class guides. This is not going to be an individual class guide thing. I'm not using this as a way to say, oh, you gotta do this build if you want to be the best raider because the best raiders do this build. No, I'm not wanting to do that, because doing that will... I don't want to deter people. You know, maybe if this is your first MMO, I want to make sure that you have all the tools that you need to have fun in Tolkien's world. I don't want you to go into this and think, oh my gosh, I've never done this before, I don't know what to expect, and get overwhelmed and quit out like I had done in previous MMOs. Or when I was a kid and I first started playing MMOs, I was constantly in this loop of, I'm lost, I don't know what's going on, delete character, restart. Thinking maybe if I restarted, I would figure it out. That was not the case. It never made things better. But finally, as an adult, and as I've come to understand what Lord of the Rings Online is and how to play it, and just the overall flow of MMOs, it has become a lot better for me, and so it can be a lot easier for me to understand. All of that to be said, I'm going to mention this one thing. When it comes to Lord of the Rings Online, reading is huge, okay? So if you don't like reading, maybe just MMOs in general are not your thing, okay? And that's not to say, oh my gosh, you don't like to read, how dare you. No, I'm not wanting to say that at all. What I am wanting to say is that if you are playing, there is a ton of information, a ton of things to digest constantly, and so I just want to make sure that you are understanding that to play an MMO means you are going to be getting a buttload of information. And for some people, that's okay. For other people, it can be overwhelming. This is part of also the reason why I'm creating this video, because I want to make sure that you have all the tools that you need and that things in this game do not become super overwhelming. Alright, now that we got all the pleasantries out of the way and my own little MMO trauma dump, we can get into the actual meat and potatoes of this tutorial. So, here you are. You are on the character creation screen. You don't know what to create. Also, shout outs to Minas Tirith. It looks gorgeous back there. You don't know what to create. You don't know what to do. You don't know where to even begin. Again, we're going to go back to that question that I talked about. If you were running around Middle-earth, who would you want to be? Okay? And that's where you are going to be looking at all of this different information. Now, that is going to be a great question to ask if you are a solo player. If you are playing in a party of people, I'm going to give you this one big piece of advice. The race over there on the left, the race that you pick determines your starting area. So if you are a man, you will be starting in the city of Archet. If you are a high elf, a dwarf, or a high elf, or an elf, you will be starting in Ered Luin. Okay? If you are, or a dwarf. Dwarves don't quite start in Ered Luin. Dwarves start in Thorin's Gate. Okay, but that's like nearby to Ered Luin, so it's a lot faster to meet up if you're playing like wanting to do dwarf and elf. If you are a hobbit, you will be starting in the Shire. If you are a Beorning, you will be starting in Archet with the men after you play through your tutorial. So, something to note as well. If you are wanting to say, I'm playing with a group of friends, there's 4 of us, I want to do man, elf, dwarf, hobbit. You want to do all 4, man, elf, dwarf, hobbit. Yeah, you want to build that diverse party. Great. Love that. Do that. But your starting areas are going to be very far apart. They're going to be very different. And you will not be meeting up until you get to Bree. So if that's the thing that you're wanting to do, great, go for it. Just note that you might be spending a bunch of time doing things solo and meeting up later as you get to Bree. Okay, and it is not something where you're like, oh, I'll be in Bree in like an hour. It will be a significant amount of time before you get there. Lord of the Rings Online is a very slow-paced MMO. It is one that expects you to go and do a whole bunch of things. It wants you to absorb the world that you are in, to be in Tolkien's world, showing every single possible aspect of Tolkien's world that you are looking for. That, like, those are the things that you have to look out for if you are playing Lord of the Rings Online. And so it will take a significant amount of time before you get to Bree. And because of that, I would just want to make sure that you are aware of what to expect if you are making a party of diverse races. Again, I'm not saying to only focus on one race. I'm not saying you have to make your party only of elves or only of hobbits. I just want to give you guys an idea of what to be expecting if you are going to be going down this road and you are going to be playing in these specific areas. Again, do what you want, do it how you want. I have a ton of different characters. They're super fun. And that's kind of the main aspects there. Okay? So, now let's say you figured out what you want to do, and at least in terms of your race. Now, what class do I want to play? There are a ton of different classes, and an important thing to know as well, some of these certain classes are going to be limited based on the race. As you can see, hobbits, they cannot be Beornings, captains, mariners, or runekeepers. Okay? Dwarves, they are not able to be Beornings, burglars, lore master, mariners, but they can be everything else. Okay? Those are all those things that you have to keep in mind when you are playing the game. Alright? Now, it doesn't... Again, this is like something else that I just want to make sure that you are understanding. Each race does have specific bonuses and things as well. That doesn't really matter that much. It just matters based on what you are looking for your character. So I do just want to give you that as a kind of a heads up. The most versatile class to race combo is going to be the men. they can play every race except for Beorning. The reason why they can't play Beornings is because Beornings can only be Beornings. But they're a special thing. We'll get into them a little bit later as we talk about more classes. Actually, we'll start with them because they're at the top of the class list. So we're going to go ahead now and we are going to be talking about Beornings. Beornings are a very interesting class. They're super fun to play. They're my personal preference if you are looking at trying to solo a bunch of content, because they have a ton of different options for solo content, as well as they and by a ton of different options, I mean they can do a ton of damage, but also they do work really, really well as a support style class. And because they're big and they're beefy, they work pretty well with some off tanks. They're not your best tank class out there. There are better tanks out there, but we will get into that as we get moving on, as we get deeper and deeper into the other classes. But with each class, so this is something I didn't talk about initially, but I'm going to talk about it now. With each class, there are 3 different traits that you can take. This is your trait tree. These are your different combat modifiers. These are going to be basically where you determine your role. To simplify it, we have blue line, red line, yellow line. Okay. Each class is going to be specific towards those. With Beorning, their blue line is going to be your primary support class. The Beorning tank or the hide, it's not your best tank, but it isn't the worst. Okay, so actually blue line is your tank. Okay, blue line is your tank, red line is going to be your damage, and yellow line is going to be your healer. Each of these traits are going to be used. I'm using Lord of the Rings Online HQ. I don't recommend using it right now. It is stupidly outdated for stats, especially since some classes did just get reworked. But again, we'll talk about the reworks aren't going to be important for this video. But that's kind of where your determinations are going to be. As you get into each class, I might just pull one up as we get into it a little bit later so you can kind of see it. Or maybe I'll edit over it. You'll kind of see a little brief bit of information on each of the different roles and what that's going to look like as you kind of pick a discipline from the blue line, yellow line, and red line. So that's something just to note as you are looking through your different classes. I won't spend a ton of time talking about which each of them are, because I do personally believe that you will learn best as you read. Learning more based on reading, understanding through your reading is going to be a really, really good option there. So I do highly recommend that you take the time just to read a little bit of each of the different descriptions before you make a commitment. You can always respec, so if you try something out and you're like, oh my gosh, this was terrible, you can pay a couple Mithril coins and you can respec and try a different role. I've been doing a ton of different roles for a bunch of different things, so it just kind of is what it is in that aspect. So we're going to move on to the next class. That is going to be our Burglar. Burglars are the they're a stealth-based class. I mean, it's kind of obvious. They're your rogue. They primarily are actually going to be a couple of different forms. They are going to be used as a debuff, as well as they are going to be used for a crowd control. Their yellow line has stuns and things like that you can use. Their red line is pure damage. If you're looking at soloing, Burglar is going to be... I mean, you can't not... Like, you can solo as a Burglar. I'm just going to clarify this. You can solo with whatever class you want. Burglars are going to be probably the least efficient. They are not going to be taking out things quickly. They are going to be more focused on spending a ton of time stunning things. So if you want to just be a troll and you want to mess with the NPCs, go ahead, play a Burglar. That's a great thing to do. For parties and fellowships, if you're wanting to play with friends, a Burglar is a great option because if you're doing fights, long fights, hard fights, a Burglar does work well because you can just continue to fight and make things a lot more difficult for your opponents because you can make things easier for your friends because you can stun them. You can use a bunch of different things to help sway the fight in your favor. So that is what the Burglar is going to be used for. If you're a new player, I don't recommend Burglars. I don't think they're as difficult as people think they are, but they are not the easiest class to just pick up and play either. So I want to just preface that as well. They are a debuff class, so they're going to make things harder for your enemies to do damage to you. Next class we're going to talk about is Brawler. Brawler, if you are a new player, do not spend the money on a Brawler. Okay, Brawlers are one of the newer classes that were recently introduced within the last couple of years, before I started really playing. Hence why I don't have them unlocked. But they are your monks. They punch things. Their whole thing is meant on being unarmed. I do want to try a Brawler. I'm very excited to kind of see what we can do with a Brawler. They are meant to be a off-tank DPS kind of thing. They're not meant to be your primary tank. But they can work decently well as a tank. I always just recommend them as your damage. Play them damage, that's going to be where they're going to shine the most. They look super fun. Like I said, I haven't played them yet, but it is on my list of things to do. I plan on playing every single class, but I'm just going to be weird with that. And then I'll give kind of my own personal tier list on classes as I play them all. And we'll probably update it as we go through, but that's going to be its own thing. And make sure if you're not subscribed, subscribe, and you can keep that up there. So yeah, Brawlers, fisticuffs, beat them up. I think they tell you, yeah, so Brawlers are inspired by Helm Hammerhand. So if you watch War of the Rohirrim, that's what you're looking for a Brawler. The next class is your Captain. Captains are inspired by Eärnur, the last king of Gondor, who was revered both as a captain skilled in arms and as a lore master. They're a weird style class. They look like they would be a tank DPS. They actually are more styled to be like your paladins. They're a little bit more of a DPS / support. They have a ton of heals. They are a big buff. They're really great for group content because you can continue to just buff your allies, make them stronger, make them do more damage, and they will be they're a lot easy. They're a lot more support based, not as much of a damage dealer. You can run Redline and do some DPS work with them, but like I mentioned before, they are a more support heavy class. They're a lot more buffs. They are a lot more they're buff heavy. That's kind of their big thing. Okay. Champions, they're your get up in your face and do damage. Basically, if I'm a new player, never played an MMO before, never played an MMO before. If you're looking, the two easiest classes that I would recommend are Champion and Hunter. Okay, these are the two classes that I would highly recommend. I do really want to dive in and play some Champion stuff, but that's just me. Okay. I haven't played too much Champion, but I do want to play both Champion and Hunter. I'm kind of waiting. I want to play Hunter in a group, but yeah, I just don't have the right group for it yet. But Champions, you can play them either dual-wielding weapons or you can play it two-handed. It all depends on what you want to do. You can kind of make some stuff in off-tank if you want, but I don't personally recommend it. I would just say let them play their damage. Their damage is super strong, and that's the route that I would go. Guardians are inspired by Gimli, so if you like Gimli, that's a great way to go. The next class we're going to talk about... See, I'm not going in-depth on classes, because if you want more in-depth look on classes, look up class guides. Best thing you can do there. Next class is your Guardians. Guardians are inspired by the Hobbit Samwise Gamgee, whose loyalty to Frodo Baggins knew no bounds. They are your tanks through and through. Guardians are hands down your best tank class. So if you are wanting to be a tank, you're wanting to draw aggro, be your defensive guy, soak up all the healing, that's what Guardians are for. Okay? So that's really kind of the big thing. They're big shields, big tank guys, big defense. That's going to be their big thing there. Hunters. If you want to be Legolas, you want to run around and shoot with a bow and arrow, you're going to be playing a Hunter. Okay, they do also have traps, so you can utilize them as a crowd control type class if you want. Personally, I'm a DPS guy, so DPS is going to be where I would look either way. And that's, I mean, they're run around pew pew bow, big thing there. Okay, Lore Masters. Lore Masters are arguably the most overpowered class in the game right now. You can utilize them both in a damage role where you can use your staff to do a bunch of magic type stuff. They're inspired by Elrond. But you can use them to do a ton of damage. You can use them as a support class doing healing. The biggest thing with Lore Masters, they're a druid. They summon animal companions. You can have your animal companions to be very, very helpful or not. It's kind of up to you on what you want to do with that. Again, each class is up to you, but animals, magic, that's what you're looking for with your Lore Masters. Mariners, they are your secondary paid class. They're the most recent class that has been brought into the game. Mariners are kind of a cross between, I would say, like a rogue and a bard. If you play D&D, that's kind of where I go with that. They have a ton of fighting options. You can use them as a DPS or you can use them as a support. They have skill chains that you can use, and you can use shanties to coordinate and motivate allies to give buffs and make your allies stronger. So they're kind of like that funky line between both damage and support. Minstrels are your next class. They are your bards. They utilize magic or music. They're primarily meant to be your healer. I personally think if you're looking at being a healer and you're not too familiar with healing, minstrels are the way to go. They are such a strong healer class. They are very, very powerful to heal. They are also a great damage class. So if you're wanting to do solo minstrel content, playing a minstrel is a great option because you can run a red line, you can yell and scream at people to kill them. It's hilarious. Highly recommend it if you are looking for something kind of goofy to play. Minstrels are a great option. Again, minstrels, I'm really looking at running a minstrel as a healer, but I want to do it with a group. I have a ton of things I want to do, but I need a group to do it. So, yeah, it's great. Runekeepers. Runekeepers are currently my personal favorite class. They are a damage healer. Those are kind of the two things. You can run them either as Redline, which is long distance channeling spells, which I think is great in group content. I think it's a little bit more difficult solo. If you're running solo, I highly recommend Yellowline because you run around blast things with lightning. It's great, super fun. Highly recommend Runekeepers. And then they have Blue Line, which is their healers. They have a ton of heals. The biggest thing with Runekeepers is they have this attunement bar. The more, and that kind of sways based on what you're doing. So if you're casting a ton of heals constantly, your heal bar will go up, making your heals more effective. If you are doing a ton of damage, your damage bar will go up, making your damage more effective. Each of those different things will work based on what you're doing. So if you're running damage, constantly do damage. Don't try and do a ton of heals because it will drain your damage bar, making your damage less effective. If you are doing heals, play a ton of heals, drop a ton of heals, and then it will make your heals more effective. That's really kind of the big thing to know there. Runekeepers, a lot of people say they're difficult for newer players. I really don't think they are, because as long as you commit to your role, you'll be fine. In terms of soloing, Runekeepers are a great solo class. I think they are one of the strongest solo classes, and so I currently have an elf healer that I'm running off stream and off content. It's been super fun. I highly recommend those. The next class is Wardens. They are a mobile tank. They are probably they're probably the hardest class to get into, to learn, because they have a ton of different ability combinations. I think they're super satisfying if you can pull them off correctly. You can run them both damage or tank. That's kind of their thing. They do have a ton of self heals, which is super useful for soloing. So they are great for solo content as well, but they are difficult to run solo because of how they operate as a class. So that's just something to notate if you are not familiar with them. Just kind of a big thing there. So now, those are all kind of a rundown of all the different classes. Again, I'm not going to spend a ton of time talking about each class in depth because that's what class guides are for, and this is not a class guide. This is an in-depth tutorial on how to get started playing the game. So I'm just gonna, and if you really want more information on each class, you can either do a class guide or you can do a movie. Each of the different races and class guides, they all have their own different movie that talk about like what to be expecting and what to be playing in that area. So that's something to note as well if you are doing a hunter. Okay, cool, great, love that. So we're not going to be creating a character. I'm just going to hop onto my Runekeeper here so that way you guys can... Okay, so this is actually, we're going to go back to character creation. Now, if you've gotten this far, you're ready to create your character, great. Just as a reminder, again, starting areas do matter based on the race that you pick. So as you create your character, just note that when you are playing characters and using them and utilizing them in various aspects when playing in a fellowship. So that's just something to note for you guys there. So you picked your character, you created it, now you're here. Now you're like, holy cow. Now what? Okay. There are a ton of things down below here that can be confusing. Biggest thing that I will always recommend as a new player, take things one thing at a time. Okay, you're going to start off in this fun, funky little starting area here. Or just clear through it, have fun with it. Don't make a big deal. Oh, it's not going to let me. Okay, I'm going to try and just get through like a quick level up. Actually, we're not going to do that. Biggest thing you're going to have, your inventory. Again, you're going to get a ton of these tutorials. I don't read them because I've been doing this for a while. I'm used to it. Read the tutorials, okay? They're there to help you. They're there to help you understand the game. Read them. It's okay. They're not that weird. They're not that difficult to understand. Read the tutorials, and I promise you it will be helpful. Okay? So, the nice thing about your starting area, especially as a human, this is what you have for your starting area. Okay? Ignore that. That's just the map. So, you're going to look at the map, and you're going to be like, holy crap, this map is huge. It is. Okay? If you're starting as a elf or a dwarf, this is going to be what your map looks like. Actually, your Thorin's Gate map will look like that as a dwarf. But as an elf, this is going to be what your map looks like. As a hobbit, this is going to be what your map looks like. It's going to look overwhelming, especially when you start realizing you can zoom out and you can realize that all of these areas are different things. Okay? This is what I'm going to tell you. The map is huge. Do not focus on the map as a whole. Okay? If you focus on the map as a whole, you are going to overwhelm yourself and realize there's content all the way up to level 150. I'm level 1. This is terrible. Okay? Don't worry about that. Okay? Don't focus. The biggest piece of advice I can give you as a new player, do not focus so far down the future. Okay? Just focus on where you are. Don't worry about... Oops. Don't worry about Middle-earth. Okay? This map, Middle-earth, is not going anywhere. Okay? Middle-earth is not changing. Middle-earth will not break. Middle-earth will not be destroyed because you did not get to Mordor quickly. Okay? I've put over 100 hours in this game. I have yet to get to Mordor. But what you can focus on in the moment are Chet. Or Ered Luin, okay? Or Thorin's Gate, or the Shire, wherever you end up going, okay? Those are the things that you can focus on. Just take it one chunk of game at a time. Even as a level 150 player, even if you've been playing MMOs forever, if you focus so much on what's going on super early, it is just going to be horribly overwhelming. Okay? Don't focus on those things. Just focus purely on what you have in front of you and enjoy it. Explore it. Go take a look at the Hunting Lodge, Blackwolf's Roost, Brownways Folly, anything. Take a look at it. Enjoy it. Enjoy the world that you were given by Sandstone Games. Enjoy Tolkien's world. That's what this game is for. It is to explore Tolkien's world, to get into the game, have fun, and make your own Middle-earth adventure. Okay? You are going to be interacting with characters from the Fellowship. You know, like right here, we've got Strider. Is Aragorn. He actually looks pretty dang good. Okay? That's something to look at and to enjoy. But you will not be traveling along the Fellowship. You will not be going to the same areas that the Fellowship goes at the same time. Things will be happening at your own pace. Just take it slow, enjoy the game, explore the different things the game has to offer. The best piece of advice that I can give for a new player is to just make Middle Earth what you want it. Okay? If you want to go on these grand adventures doing quests and raids and things, work towards that. Okay? If you want to just be a simple cook in the town of Bree, work towards that. Okay? Make this game what you want it. Don't let other people decide the type of Middle Earth adventure you want to have. If you're getting together with friends and you're like, we're going to make this a very difficult adventure, then great. You have the Paths of Valor for that. I'll make its own tutorial for that later on. Okay? But that's its own thing. We won't worry about that for now. But for the most part, that's the best pieces of advice I can give. A basic summary of every single class, what you're going to be expecting, and what to focus on once you actually get into the world. Once you get into the world, just focus on what's in front of you. Don't worry about Middle Earth as a whole. It'll be way too easy to get overwhelmed. Okay? That is my new player's tutorial. Hopefully everything you should need to know before diving into Lord of the Rings Online for the first time. If you have any questions, please do let me know down in the comments below. I would love to be of help for anybody who is interested in trying out this game. I love this game. It's becoming one of my favorite games of all time. So please do enjoy this game. Have fun. And with that, you guys are fearfully and wonderfully made. Thank you guys so much for hanging out, and we will see you next time. Bye-bye.